We're back Friday morning here on the Big 550 KTRS, and helping us along the way is Scott Sherman. Good morning, Scott Sherman.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
How are you doing?
Outstanding, sir. How
Good.
are you? I'm excited about this next guest.
And our next guest is the mayor of London. I'm going to be in London next summer, bringing a bunch of St. Louisans. We're going to start off our trip in London. Hopefully he invites us over to his, I don't know, where do they live?
You for tea.
Where does the mayor live in London?
City Hall.
City Hall, yes. Boris Johnson joins us, the mayor of London. Good morning, Mr. Mayor.
Good morning, sir. Good morning.
Yeah, we're bringing a bunch of St. Louisans over to London. Where should we go?
Fantastic.
Where should we go?
You should come to City Hall. You should go and see the whole thing. Go and see the Houses of Parliament. You should see Greenwich. You should go on the river. Have a fantastic day. Go to the parks. You'll go and watch a football game. You'll have a wonderful time.
Can we stop by your house and say hi?
You can stop by. You can definitely stop by City Hall.
All right, there you go. Good.
It'd be a pleasure to welcome you.
You got it.
Pleasure to welcome you.
Boris Johnson, you are the mayor, the current sitting mayor of London. However, you're in America promoting.
I'm in America.
While
I am.
You are in America today. And you were on Letterman's show the other night, and you're out promoting a book. While you're running London, you have time to write a book about your political hero, Winston Churchill?
I know, and the reason I have absolutely no inhibitions about doing so, because nor did he. When he was this guy, he kept writing the history of the English-speaking peoples when war had already broken out in 1939. Winston Churchill produced more words than Dickens, more words than Shakespeare, more words than Dickens and Shakespeare combined, and he kept writing throughout his political career. I think writing is a great thing for politicians to do, and I think it was very much to the advantage of the electorate that they had Churchill's words, his thoughts, particularly about German rearmament, there to read. They could see what was going on. He was putting his views out there in all sorts of media.
The book is,
thank goodness he did.
Yeah, the book is called The Churchill Factor, How One Man Made History. Boris Johnson, our guest, the author and the mayor of London. Two things I want to get to with this book, because Churchill, you could spend hours talking about him.
Yeah.
One is, let's talk about the Potsdam Conference. At the end of World War II, all the leaders get together to divvy up Germany in August. At that time, Harry Truman, on his way back, tells the American military, go ahead and drop the bomb. But during the Potsdam Conference, England does not re-elect Winston Churchill, right?
Absolutely.
Talk about that for a moment. That is extraordinary.
Well, it's an extraordinary event. Here's Churchill. He's the guy who's personally been responsible for England fighting on in 1940. He stopped a deal with Hitler that would have been an utter disaster. He has led his country heroically through the war, made speeches that have given heart and courage to millions of people, and there, in 1945, he's kicked out of office. And several things to say. First of all, of course, in a way, it's a triumph of everything he stood for. He believed in democracy. He believed in the right of people to kick out their politicians. That's what he was fighting for. That's what it was all about. And Stalin, of course, who believed in no such thing, was absolutely amazed that Churchill was going back to receive the verdict of the British people.
Right. I mean, Churchill left the conference, right?
He left the conference. He left the conference with everybody expecting him to return as prime minister, but he himself woke in the morning before dawn with a sudden stabbing, almost physical sense of pain, as his political instincts told him that things had gone wrong, and they had gone wrong. And basically, what had happened was the Labour Party, the opposition, had been very clever in telling the British public, look, Churchill's a hero, of course, but he's a bit different from the Tory party. You can vote against the Tory party. Cheer for Churchill, vote for Labour was the Labour slogan. And I'm afraid it worked. And Churchill was kicked out. His wife said, it may be a blessing in disguise, which he said, well, at the moment it's pretty effectively disguised. With the
25th anniversary of the Berlin Wall falling down, if Churchill would have been able to stay at the Potsdam Conference, would Germany and Berlin have looked any differently if he would have stayed?
I think he it's hard. It's hard to know. I think Harry Truman, in the end, got the point about the Cold War. I think that he understood the threat that Soviet communism posed. But was very interesting, and I know I'm talking to Missouri. It's very interesting that actually it was in Fulton, Missouri, which is, I think, not far from you.
Right.
Where are you? You're
in St. Louis,
right?
Right.
Right. Okay. Well, I listen. My geography is not brilliant, but you're not far from where Churchill made that great speech.
100 miles.
Your geography is better than the people here in St. Louis. Let's just put it that way, because a lot of people don't know.
I bet it isn't.
A lot of people don't know the world changed in Fulton, Missouri.
The world, and he exactly right. He went to that college,
Westminster.
Westminster College, and he said an iron, from Stettin in the Baltic to Trieste in the Adriatic, an iron curtain is being drawn across Europe, and he forecast exactly what was going to happen under the communists: the tyranny, the police state, the repression of human rights, all the things that were wrong with communism that he understood. But what was also so incredible about the Fulton, Missouri speech, and to get to your point about 25 years since the fall of the wall, he understood that it would collapse. He understood that communism would eventually disintegrate because it wasn't a sensible way for human beings to satisfy their ambitions.
Yeah.
It would lead to tyranny and repression and economic failure. He understood that capitalism, for all its faults, was the best way of advancing people's economic goals. And he was totally right.
Yeah.
So the speech, the Fulton, Missouri speech, reads, all 5,000 words of it read very, very well today. Except he does call for a kind of international air force of some kind, which I didn't really understand, and nobody's ever really tried, except on a British program called Thunderbird.
Boris Johnson is our guest. He is the mayor of London, and he has penned a book, The Churchill Factor, How One Man Made History.
Mr. Mayor, Scott Sherman, I'm here with McGraw. You and I share reverence for the Prime Minister. I have a poster of the Prime Minister in my house. Speak a little bit about Winston Churchill's independence. I mean, this is really one of the important things about his character. He was always an
totally
independent man. He switched parties when he was younger. He was the lone wolf speaking out against the Nazis during the 1930s. Talk about the importance of independence.
That's the thing. He plowed his own furrow. When he decided on his position, he stuck to it. And nobody has done what he did before. His sheer courage. In 1904, he decides that the Tories, the Conservatives, are going the wrong way. They're going anti-free trade. They want to create tariffs and all this sort of stuff to protect the landed interest, to protect the big business. And he thinks that's against the interest of the little guy. You put tariffs up, it raises prices for the little guy. It's no good. So he dumps the Tories. He crosses the floor of the House of Commons. He becomes a liberal. Then in the 20s, the thing reverses, and it's the Tories who become in favor of free trade again. He re-rats, as he puts it. He joins the Tories again. And but people say he was a double crosser. Actually, it was the parties that changed their silly policy, their policy on free trade, and Churchill was being entirely consistent. And you look at all those big positions he took in the run up to the Second World War. Yeah, he got a lot of them wrong. Indian independence, he totally blew it. He was wrong about that. He was wrong about the abdication. He's howled down in the House of Commons when he tries to make a speech saying the king can marry any filly he pleases, all that sort of thing. But when it comes to the biggie, when it comes to the existential question of whether Britain should fight on in 1940, what attitude we should take to Nazism, he was right, and he had the strength to push his colleagues, to push Britain into doing the right thing.
Boris Johnson, our guest, the mayor of London, has written a new book, The Churchill Factory, How One Man Made History. There's so much to talk about. But when the United States was bombed by Japan and Pearl Harbor, Franklin Roosevelt the next day declared war on Japan and declared war on Germany, and then the United States went and fought Germany first. Yes. Was that because of Churchill?
Actually, what happened? That's almost what happened. If you remember, was that Japan did Pearl Harbor. America declared war on Japan quite reasonably, but then Hitler declared war on America, which he didn't have to do, and then that was the sequence, and then of course America was absolutely embroiled. But why did Hitler declare war on America? An insane thing to do, to follow Pearl Harbor with that. It was because by then America and Britain were already, pretty openly working together, and America was helping massively, not just with Lend-Lease, but with support for the Atlantic convoys, without which my country would have starved. And America had been embroiled, as it were, in a way that the Germans could see, and so that was why Hitler declared war on America. But it was thanks to Roosevelt and to Churchill and to Churchill's relationship with Roosevelt that alliance was already building. And if it hadn't been for both of them, if it hadn't been for Roosevelt and Churchill's long series of meetings before Pearl Harbor, things again might have been very different. You might not have got American commitment in that way.
Mr. Mayor, so many speeches that the Prime Minister gave, there's the few and the fight on the beaches. My favorite is the joint session of Congress on December 26, 41. And this is just weeks after the United States is embroiled in the war. Winston Churchill comes, it's during the holidays, it's a packed session, and he absolutely takes the place over. Can you tell a little bit about the importance of that speech, and in particular his relationship as having an American mother? And
that's right. It's a wonderful speech, and he absolutely gets them going. He says, he makes that point at the very beginning. He says if he has an American mother and a maternal American grandfather and so on, and a British father, and he speculates that if things had been the other way round, he might have got there on his own. In other words, if he had an American father and a British, he might well have been a member of the U.S. Congress himself, and the whole place erupts at that point. And it's wonderful to watch it. He plays to the gallery in the most shameless way, kind of waving his spectacles around and sticking his arm out, and he brilliantly, what he does is he very cleverly elides the idea of Britain and America, and he starts to talk about the two being the same. He says, what kind of people do they think we are, of the Japanese and the Germans? And it's as though he's very cleverly trying to create this idea in the American public consciousness, which was, of course, very suspicious of being involved in another war, that Britain and America are somehow united together, and two branches of the same great Anglo-Saxon tree, or however you want to look at it. And that was part of his whole wooing approach. The concept of the English-speaking peoples he loved.
The book is called The Churchill Factor, How One Man Made History, written by Boris Johnson, who also happens to be the current mayor of London. I want it on the record, Mr. Mayor, that we blew off Jennifer Lawrence and gave you more time than David Letterman.
Yeah, you're so kind. I got to meet her though.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
All right. Fair enough.
And a wonderful job that he did during the Olympics, Mayor Johnson.
Yes.
Wonderful ambassador.
Put the coffee on. We'll be there late July. So if some strange talk show host from St. Louis shows up.
We'll look forward to that very much.
You got it. Boris Johnson, mayor of London. The book is called The Churchill Factor. Mr. Mayor, thank you for your time. Good luck with the book.
Thank you for your time.
You got it. 9:25 here, Big 550 KTRS. There you go.
That guy's